Hello again and welcome to the 140k Imperial Guard Tactics video. Now before we get into today's video, I'd like to do a quick shout out. A couple of weeks ago I was sent a link to a Math Hammer app that had been developed by a nice fellow called Jake Noble, and he said could I take a look at it and check it out and if possible do a shout out. Well, I don't normally do sort of paid promotions or anything like that, but I will do a review of something if I personally think it's quite good. And so I checked this app out, and genuinely, guys, it is actually quite interesting. It's got a bit of an edge on other sort of Math Hammer apps out there and whatnot, because it takes into account a lot of the different special rules and such. So, for example, that you can take into account things like mortal wounds on a specific roll. Extra damage on a wound roll of a 6+, quantum shielding, serpent shield, more DACA, there's lots of different things, and which is and there's also what it does really well is it can do random number of shot calculated, basically. So if you've got a battle cannon that fires like 2d6 shots, there is actually a formula that you can pick, and it will work that out. So it is quite good. It's actually quite intuitive. It looks very simplistic on the surface, but then actually there's lots of different. It doesn't just accept numbers on the inputs. It accepts a little bit of text and stuff as well. For when you're doing sort of random shots and whatnot, and all this is included. It is included in quite a comprehensive FAQ. I almost don't know if I'd call it an FAQ or if I'd just call it like a guide. Now, full disclosure, guys, it's not a free app. It will cost you £3.50 if you want to get access to it. But there are no ads. There are no inbuilt transactions, no microtransactions or anything like that. But I would honestly, I would check it out. I would consider it. It is a step above most of the Math Hammer apps out there and websites out there that you can normally find. So it is something you should seriously consider. I will have a link down in the description below, and absolutely go and check it out. I like I said, I don't do paid promotions or anything like that. I only review stuff if I actually think if it's worth it, and I would say that this is definitely worth it for those of you out there that want to do a bit more sort of in-depth math hammering. So there we go, guys. Now, without further ado, let's crack on with today's video. So we're going to be talking about the new and improved Demolisher cannon. So as with the release of the Space Marine Codex, their vindicated Demolisher cannon went up to D6 shots all the time, and then Games Workshop released an errata which said that all Demolisher cannons are now D6 shots all the time, which is great because Demolisher cannon came down in points and now has gone up in capability, which is fantastic. So for those of you that weren't aware, the Demolisher cannon used to only get D6 shots when it was shooting at units which had more than 5 models in it, but now it just gets D6 shots all the time. Now the Demolisher cannon was already pretty good anti-tank weapon. It was a bunker buster. And now it is even more so. I see a lot of people very excited about this, and I don't blame them. I know I did a video recently saying, is Leman Russ becoming obsolete? Well, I would say that the Leman Russ Demolisher it likes to refute that statement now. There is definitely an argument to be made for the Leman Russ Demolisher being the new golden child of the Leman Russ family. Okay, it's got that superior strength, straight up, strength 10, nice. It's got that superior AP, -3 to the -2. Now I know that doesn't help so much against invulnerable save spam, but it does help again. It is still useful. When you're launching these things at tanks, enemy vehicles, it's still that -3 is going to help. It's not, it's not in the invulnerable save spam world that we now live in. It's more of a bonus rather than a defining characteristic. Strength 10 though is extremely nice. and shouldn't be discounted at all. Especially if we're comparing this thing, to the current Golden Child, which is the battle cannon, which is only strength 8. So this thing, is wounding knights on 3s, whereas the battle cannon is only wounding them on 4s. Now, the big thing that makes the Demolisher cannon quite tasty is that D6 damage. It's D6 damage. It's not D3 damage like the main battle cannon, which makes it really good. That D6 damage is exactly what you need in this sort of power creep that we're finding ourselves in, because what we're rapidly approaching, guys, with in 8th edition now is a similar situation to 7th, which was you either need to go down the route of you throw enough shit at the wall and some of it will stick, or you need to go down that go big or go home route. I'm not quite sure which is going to win out yet at the moment, but the go big or go home route is my guardsmen typically only hit half the time, so when they do hit, it needs to hurt. The Demolisher cannons fit into that perfectly. They're strength 10, and they do D6 damage. So if you hit, you're gonna wound, and if you somehow get past that invulnerable save that the enemy is inevitably going to have, then the D6 damage means you have got a really good chance of tearing a chunk. A serious chunk out of the enemy. Now that D6 damage does have the ability to, if you get past that captain with Storm Shield, that D6 damage has the ability to one-shot him potentially. So you really need to. So it is really good, the Demolisher cannon, and the best thing about it is it's only 20 points. Now the main disadvantage of the Demolisher cannon, and it's a big one to be honest, is it only has a 24-inch range. Okay, it only has a 24-inch range, which means it is not a weapon that you can, effectively win a long-range tank duel with. But 40k, 24-inch range typically these days means you have to move for one turn to get into range. And we've got abilities at our fingertips, like in the Vigilus tank detachment formation, where you can move your full distance, still get your grinding advance for 1 CP on a tank. So it's not that bad. And don't forget, Leman Russes have the ability to effectively move. They have full throttle. So if you absolutely need to bomb this thing across the table, there's nothing stopping you from moving 10 inches and advancing, and moving 10 inches and advancing again. I doubt there's going to be a few situations when you're going to need to move a Leman Russ almost 32 inches across the battlefield. But if you need to, it is there. That ability is there, and it is a short range weapon. So you just keep that in mind. Keep that ability in mind. So the Leman Demolisher, it is good. It is a good weapon. Now, how would I influence this? Well, or which regiments do I think are the biggest winners here? Vostroyan, without a doubt. There you get an extra 6-inch range in Demolisher. You're effectively eliminating its main disadvantage, which is the shorter range. You've got an extra 6 inches. Essentially means you've got, with the grinding advance and your movement and whatnot, you've got a 35-inch threat range with this thing. That's typically enough. Also, the fact that you can take 3 tank commanders and then take another with Demolisher cannons, and then another regular Leman Russ with Demolisher cannon. Use Firstborn Pride on that thing, and then Inspired Tactics, and essentially for a couple of CP a turn, you can get yourself an extra tank commander. Because you put Firstborn Pride on it to get +1 to hit, it's hitting on 3s. Using Inspired Tactics on one of your tank commanders to order the regular Leman Russ to have Gunner's Kill on sight, as well as itself to use Gunner's Kill on sight, and you've got rerolling 1s as well. So essentially you have 4 tanks there hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s with Demolisher cannons. That's a tasty combo. Catachans, of course, simply for the fact that they get to reroll the random number of shots. That's really important. And to a point, Cadians, simply because Cadians do have that ability to reroll the random number of shots, and if once the Demolisher is in range, it can stay still and get the advantage of, you know, rerolling the ones to hit. Interestingly, and I don't often say this, I think Mordians get a big kick out of the Leman Russ Demolisher now, because it's a tank that you want to get close to the enemy, which means there's a chance it's going to get countercharged. So Mordians can use, if they've got two vehicles within 3 inches of each other, then both vehicles get to Overwatch on a 5+. You can then use defensive gunners, so you can Overwatch on a 4+, which is actually really, really good. And I think there are some shenanigans. I think there's some other shenanigans you can do, but essentially, yeah. So when your Demolisher gets it, you know, into range, you don't have to worry quite as much about it getting tied in combat, because you can just, you know, basically Overwatch on full ballistic skill, which is nice. Yeah, I think the other regiments don't, you know, benefit from it quite as much. One last tasty nugget of information is, I would say a big winner here is the Baneblade. The proper Baneblade and Hellhammer, the ones which have actual turret weapons and Demolisher cannons inbuilt into the hull, because that means they've now got essentially, and the Baneblade now essentially has an extra D6 for its main cannon at 24-inch range. That's very nice. You know, and the Hellhammer is typically going to be moving forward to get into range of that 36-inch range gun. Well, now it's going to be doing that, and also, yeah, the Demolisher cannon will be seriously adding to that thing's firepower. So, Baneblades and Hellhammers just got a boost, which is nice, because those super heavy, every little buff that the indirect buff the guard can get is really important. I'm sure there's plenty of Forge World units out there as well, which will be enjoying this benefit. I think, is it like the Malkador Defender? That's probably getting a nice boost from this. All those heavy bolters and the whole Demolisher cannon. You know, that's quite nice now. Trying to think. I think that pretty much sums it up. I think Guard will actually benefit from this, because we are one of the few factions which can really spam Demolisher cannons if we want to. But yeah, so Doom and Gloom, Leman Russ, they're not obsolete. But I think I think air power is taking more of a, to relate to one of my last videos. I think air power is taking more of a front seat, but I think little changes like this will help keep the Demolisher cannon in contention. It will help keep the Leman Russ in contention, which is good. So yeah, the Demolisher cannon slowly but surely, as I would say, has become the premier choice of weapon for your tanks and your Imperial Guard. What do you guys think? Do you agree with that assessment, or would you say that the regular battle cannon still, with the fact it's got that 72-inch range, wins out? I don't know. It has, the one thing you get, it only has one advantage over the Demolisher. That is range. It has one advantage, and we've talked about several ways you can mitigate that. So personally, I'm Team Demolisher now. It just happens to be that I have 3 Demolisher tanks ready to go. So that's good. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you for listening, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.